Is there a version of you who brags when they get little sleep, the one who answers work emails at 11 p.m. and calls it dedication, the one who skips lunch so that they can meet the deadline, skips the things that they actually want to do in life, like exercise or meal prep, and you tell yourself it's just a season. This is just a season. But here's what I'm going to tell you, it's always just the season. And today we're going to talk about something that is new for us, those of us who are high achievers and high performers. And today we're talking about the concept of entering your soft era. Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we have honest conversations about food, body, exercise, and mindset. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed associate marriage and family therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. And we have candid conversations about how your mind, your body, and your identity are one integrated system and teach you how to treat it accordingly. So if you're a high-performing individual who loves educational, thoughtful, and no bullshit conversations around health and wellness, you're in the right place. Here we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I'm so excited you took this time out for yourself to learn something about your physical and mental health. So you're probably like, how did we go from all the hustle and grind to I need to enter my soft era? Well, we're going to talk about it today. You may have heard this phrase called like soft living, soft life. It's been floating around social media, especially for our Gen Z millennial girlies and boys. And like most things that go viral, they, as you get older, you're like, that's so dumb, that's stupid, or it gets kind of like hyped up into something that it's not. And when someone who's a high performer and high achiever and someone who grinds hears the word soft, they picture someone in like a robe, like zen, ignoring their responsibilities, doing nothing all day while their inbox is burning or something. I don't know. We consider it lazy. We consider it checked out. We consider it very privileged. But that's not what we're talking about. It's not even close. So what we're going to actually look at is what is having a soft era? Where did it come from? What is it really about? And why I think our generation is responsible for it, and why the generation after us is getting mocked for something that they might be teaching us that we never learned and should have learned a long time ago. So, full transparency, where's my phone? I had a friend send me this article from BuzzFeed, and it was talking about this, why a lot of adults are entering their soft era. And so I will link the article below. So here's the read that I got in regards to the way people are describing soft era, and I think that they're onto something. So soft living isn't about removing stress. Obviously, we can't remove stress. We need stress in our lives. It helps to tell us when to run from a bear. Anyone who's out here trying to sell you a stress-free lifestyle is selling you bullshit. You will not be without stress in your life. Can we reduce the amount of stress we have or unwanted stress? Yes. Chronic stress? Yes. However, stress is going to exist. What soft living is about putting your peace before anything else, right? It's about putting your peace first, even when you're standing in the middle of the shit, a storm, the deadline. It's choosing areas in your life where ease is validating and available. And doing that instead of reaching for the hardest possible version of everything by default, because we tend to do that. We are go-getters or grinders. So we're going to find the hardest thing and we're going to pursue it, even though it 1000% affects our peace. And I'm going to give you an example of that. I recently made some changes in regards to my clinical license. And I have a supervisor for that. And I was talking to them about my niche, right? And like, who do I want to serve in the clinical world here in Arizona? And number one, none of my coaching clients can become therapeutic clients. I just need to say that. But for a long time, I worked with the hardest cases, in-depth trauma, eating disorders, things of that nature. But now as I've gotten older, when I was younger, I would think, wow, like, look how great, like, I get to help this population. It's a very challenging population. Worked in child crimes, I ran intensive outpatient programs. And I was like, yeah, I'm so great. Right. I find some of the most challenging diagnoses and I work with them. Now I'm like, I want I want to work with a select few people, women through menopause transition. There's not a lot of therapists out there doing that. So being able to do that in this state, right? And not anyone who's a former client, I need to say that, is something that I'd like to do, because working with those harder diagnoses, while it was something that brought me joy to help those individuals, it also stole away from my peace often because it is so complex, right? So again, for me, I would find the hardest diagnoses to work with and calling it something that I should wear with pride when really it was stealing my peace, and ultimately is one of the reasons I burnt out. So I want you to think about how many decisions you make on hard mode for no reason. Like, what do you make hard, right? You take the extra shift, even though you know that you've just worked 6 shifts in a row, right? Or you take on extra work because saying no feels uncomfortable to you. You say yes when your whole body is just asking you to sit on the couch, watch Love Island, and eat some kava. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? I love that. And just picking the high pressure option of anything moving forward because everyone's expecting you to, or you see everyone else doing it, not because you want to. Now, you guys might be thinking, we talk about this stuff a lot here because these are the things that are impacting your health overall. I had a really great conversation with a gal who used to be an intern, actually, when I worked in child help, which is a therapeutic practice that helps children in the crimes that have had crimes against them. And she actually is working on she's actually going to come on the podcast and talk about this. She's working on a burnout prevention for the police department. It wasn't necessarily for the police department. It was actually for her clients. So she does something very similar to what I do, but in a therapeutic practice, where mine is coaching, right? We don't practice therapy here at the Mindset of Matter. And, it's a lot of these individuals, they go so hard and they forget those little things that actually help them stay present and helps to manage the potential of burnout, especially in a job like that. So soft living says, what if you didn't choose the hard all the time and you chose, like, some of the things she's talking about is water, right? Sleep. The framing I keep coming back to is struggle is not the price for a good life. And I know that. It's kind of crazy right now with the transition of the Mindset of Matter, going from my traditional model, which was, 40, 50, 60 clients at a time, and moving to this 12-person model and then the collective. That for me is, I don't need to struggle and hustle and be working all hours of the night to have a good life. I can do this and organize what I give, right, to others and what I receive, and be able to give myself time. And it's crazy to not have a full calendar. It's almost uncomfortable for me. So I want to acknowledge that for you, because I, like you, have absorbed something at some time that if, it didn't cost us something, time, money, attention, the hustle grind, then it didn't count for us in our lives. And we see that, or we feel that suffering is a proof of effort at some point. It's like, oh, look how busy I am. I'm this exhausted because I'm so needed. I'm so wanted. I'm so successful. But it's a lie. It's an absolute lie. And it's an expensive lie at some point, And I'm not talking about expensive in regards to what we have to invest to get that time and attention back, but it's expensive in your relationships, in your careers, in your health. So when we're talking about soft living in our soft era, the actual practice is grounded. It's boundaries around your energy. It's figuring out what rest means for you and then actually doing it without guilt. It is not as a reward, it's not something that you earned. We're being intentional with the small comforts in our lives and letting go of the guilt when it shows up the second you stop producing. Small comforts is a thing that my client Marissa and I came up with because she travels a lot for work, and I'm not going to remember this correctly, but when she was getting home, she almost felt like she needed another day off from her trip. And I said, well, what if we bring some small comforts into that trip? And you guys have heard me talk about this when I talk about travel, but small comforts don't just have to be outside of the home, which we'll talk about. A part of the soft era too is accepting that a lot of your life isn't under your control and focusing your attention on the parts that are and softening those parts. And this isn't about moving into feminine or like giving up something about yourself. It's not about being lazy. Some of it's harder. This could be harder than the grind, the pulling back, because grinding for a lot of us is on autopilot, and slowing down and softening takes discomfort. And I'm, as someone who is intentionally doing this in my life and creating space in my schedule, it's difficult. And I'll say that. But I want to first explain why this is so important, because I think we are in a burnout crisis. And that is because of, corporations overworking people and having incentive plans to make overworking, the expectation. We also, after 2020 and the pandemic, see a lot of people going into their own businesses. And obviously, when you work for yourself, you'll do anything for the company. Believe me, I know. And you'll hustle and grind. And we also have women going into, C-suites, or women have been there for a while, but, women are now, mothers, they're founders, they're executives, and there's a lot of pressure on us to keep our spot at the table. I still think that pressure is still there, and I will continue to say that. But let's talk about why the trend exists, because, and I'm going to look at my iPad here. So workplace burnout in the US has reached its highest point in years. The 2025 AFLAC Workforces Report found that nearly 72% of U.S. employees are dealing with moderate to very high stress at work. That's 3 out of 4 people. 3 out of 4. Research has Gen Z and millennials hitting their peak burnout at 25 years old. The average American hits it at 42. So we've got people burning all the way out before they've even really started their lives. Literally, it's like quarter life crisis, almost 2 decades earlier than the generation before them. Deloitte found that 77% of millennials have experienced burnout at their current jobs, not at some point in their careers, at this specific job. 77%. And the Eagle Hill 2025 Workforce Survey found that burnt out employees are nearly 3 times more likely to say they're planning to leave their job in the next year. So burnout is not just a feeling, it literally becomes a resignation letter. So when someone rolls their eyes and thinking about the soft life crowd, have we seen the numbers? These numbers don't lie. People are opting out of this hard work because they're tired of feeling so destroyed by it. And I think that is important for us to focus on. And let's talk about that, because these Gen Zers are, while we talk shit about them, that they're, soft quitting and soft living, it's something we have to learn from, right? I'm a millennial. And as I mentioned, we were the hustle generation, rise and grind, right? The side hustle on top of the main hustle, the I'll sleep when I'm dead energy. I talk a lot about this. We wore it like a badge. And a lot of us learned this watching from our parents, who gave decades to corporations and companies, skipping vacation days, eating all the stress, and calling it providing for their families. And I'm happy to have had that image from my father, who was, my dad was blind, so he had a disability. You would never know it. He grinded and he hustled and he did what he had to do for his family. And I'm proud of that. And also, he could barely keep his eyes open at the end of the day. I would always sit on my dad's chair. He had like a lazy boy, and I'd sit on because the lazy boy chairs has those big, comfy cushion sides where you put your armrests. And I'd always sit on the chair with him. Even as I got older, I'd always sit there just like, as his little girl. But as a younger girl, I'd sit with him and he would just, I'm resting my eyes, and couldn't even keep his eyes open at the end of the day, right? We watched that. We watched them do it. Then we did it harder, right? Because my mom worked for my dad, whereas I work for myself, and that's not to say anything about her, but I work for myself, and a lot of my friends and my clients that I've worked with, I mean, they're in high level positions that maybe their mothers never were in, right? Are you tired of wasting your money on diet and exercise program that leave you feeling pretty much the same? You're spinning your wheels, but the food noise is still there, the body dysmorphia, the overtraining and not seeing results, the emotional eating, it's all still there. But you don't think you have an option because they're pretty much all the same. What if the next program you invest in combines therapeutic practice with exercise and nutrition science and behavioral change? What if this program focuses on what you say in your mind so that you can have a better relationship on what you see in the mirror? Hi, I'm Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I'm the founder of the Mindset and Matter coaching program. Here, we see your mind, your body, and your identity as one integrated system and treat it as such. We focus on your self-defeating beliefs and understand how they impact your behaviors and thus the outcomes that you feel stuck in. We do this through the Mindset Method, my psychological curriculum that I've curated with over 15 years experience and adapted it to you, the average woman, and this coaching program. This is one method, one program, one coach, and let's face it, the one area you've probably never done the work on. So if you're tired of spinning your wheels and wasting your money, check out the link below for more information. The thing about, that is we do it harder. We have phones in our hands now that allow us to work from any room, anywhere, any place. Whereas our parents didn't have that. They don't have it until now. And so not only are we working harder, there's more access to us. And Gen Z, watch this, right? I mean, technically, I don't know what the Gen Z age range is, but my friends have adult kids, multiple of my friends. I'm 43, so a couple of my friends had kids around to age 25, right? So their kids are 18, 19 years old. And I think about my best friend who ran her own company and works her ass off, and provides for her children. They watch that. They watch the hustle and the grind. They watch their mothers eat their feelings. They watch their mothers, their relationships collapse because of the grind. They saw the burnout, right? Because a lot of them are witness to these numbers that I talked about, right? In that same 2025 AFLAC data, Gen Z actually passed millennials as the most burnt out group. 74% of them reporting at least moderate burnout. So it's not that they figured out how to avoid the wall, they hit it too. They just refuse to pretend they're on fire. And that's the difference. We hit the wall and we apologize for it. They hit the wall and they're like, this is a fucking problem and we need to do something. Now, yes, the pendulum has swung the other way. And, the quiet quitting is happening. We talk about, I was listening to my church that I like out in Florida, and they were talking about everyone got participation trophies. Kids aren't learning to be resilient. I think there's some truth in that. And anytime that we swing that pendulum, we usually overcorrect. However, the thing that we need to take from that are the boundaries, right? Refusing to make your job your entire personality. And the older generations, we tend to call it like an entitlement. We tend to call it not, holding them responsible and accountable, right? I don't think it's entitlement. I think that it's a correction. And again, a bit of an overcorrection, but they're correcting something that started many generations back. And we just swung a little bit too far, right? Pendulums do that. Somewhere out there is a version of soft living that tips into avoidance, right? I definitely think that, where protecting my peace becomes the excuse for never getting uncomfortable or having hard conversations or holding yourself accountable, never finishing hard things that are good for you, and practicing that resilience. That is real, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not. But that's the extreme. And that's what we see on social media. But for some of these kids, they're not living in that extreme. For most people, they're trying to find a way to work and exist in a way that doesn't require them to sacrifice their nervous system and their health. And I think that that is so important. They're not sacrificing their bodies in the name of productivity. And on that, Gen Z is teaching us something. And this is, the student is teaching the teachers, right? And we should let them. We should let them. So here's what I want to talk about, because these trends are not here just for the sake of trends. I care about what's actually happening underneath. So I talk a lot on the show about toxic resilience, as you guys know, that kind of toughness that looks very impressive from the outside, but is slowly killing us and hollowing you out on the inside. The person who can handle anything, the person who never drops the ball, the person that everyone can rely on, and who is one bad week away from just saying, fuck. I always think of that meme where it's like, F this shit, right? And it's someone throwing up the paper in the air, and then underneath it's like, oh wait, it's just Thursday. That's what I think about when you have that one day. You're one bad week away of that silent collapse that nobody sees coming because you've been masking it so well. Soft living, on the other hand, the real version of it, is the antidote to that. And it's not the opposite of resilience, because resilience, again, and I talked about this on my live stream. By the way, you guys, I live stream every Thursday on YouTube. So if you are not subscribed to YouTube channel, you won't know. It's not on Spotify or Apple. So just wanted to say that. But I talked about how the definition, excuse me, wow, that came out of nowhere. Speaking of burnout, just kidding. The definition of resilience is your biological ability to adapt, recover, and grow through hard things, right? But the resilience, as I mentioned, the word recovery is in the definition. You can't pour from an empty cup. We know that, right? But it's deeper than that when we're talking about the soft era life. You can't change a single behavior in your life if your whole system is running on survival mode. I see this all the time in my business, where I'm happy the way that I explain things to my clients, especially when they're starting. I'm like, we've got to get you out of survival mode and just make very small changes when it comes to your boundaries, how you're taking care of yourself, so that your body can start feeling safe. And the science is pretty clear about behind this. When you're chronically depleted, right, which most of us are, your brain stops reaching for a new behavior. If it stops reaching for a new behavior and starts protecting itself, because a new behavior requires a lot of energy, right? So the brain checks out and it learns that effort doesn't pay. So why bother, right? This is not a character flaw of your brain. This is biology doing its job. So your brain protects yourself by checking out when you are overly stressed, because it says, I can't do anything else. Anything else is an expense to me. And so it says, look, I put all this effort into all of these things and I'm still running on empty. So why would I try to add something new here? And I think that's important for you. When we're thinking about how to get ourselves out of that, again, it comes back to iteration and not trying to change everything at once. That is another grind. That's something I wasn't going to talk about here. It's not in my notes, but I just thought of that. Like when we try to make all of these changes at once, that's a part of the hustle and grind. Let me do it all. Let me do it all right now. I am guilty of this because I got behind on my Bible study. And this morning I was like, I got to get back into it. So I listened to 3 of my church sermons on my walk and my workout. And then I read and I was like, okay, calm down. See, it's like all or nothing. We could even all or nothing our spiritual practice. So that iteration of finding those small, repeatable, honest things that we can do for ourselves to start protecting our peace. We're not going to just write everybody off. We're not going to just quit our job. We're not going to do the extreme, because extremes are why we're here in the first fucking place. So we have to find those small steps, because, softness isn't the thing that gets in the way of your goals. It's actually the thing that very much is going to help you make those goals possible, because again, you will not burn out. So this is actually from the article itself. And I just thought it was such a great article. So I'm just going to review the 7 steps that they have talked about embracing soft living. So step 1 is starting to create boundaries for your energy. And boundaries are definitely something that we talk a lot about here. Boundaries are not about you hurting anyone else. It's about you creating space for you to reconnect to your wants and your needs, meeting those wants and needs, and then showing up for others. Because when you do that, you are more present. I know, we have been in conversations with people where we're completely fucking checked out. And we have to say, wait, what? Say that again. I do that way too often with my husband at the end of long days. And it makes me feel bad. I'm not being a good partner. And then I, might get mad because I didn't hear him say something. And then later he's like, well, I told you. And I'm like, no, you didn't. So then it starts a fight, right? Full transparency. These things happen in my relationship. I'm sure they happen in yours. So protecting our boundaries and our, creating space for our energy is incredibly important. And you don't have to write this 5-page paragraph or 5-paragraph essay on why you did it. You can just protect your space. Number 2 is figure out how you want to rest and then practice it, because rest can be sleep. But for me, rest is getting out and just hanging out with the dogs outside. One of my favorite things to rejuvenate myself is hanging out with little Libby. Liberty is just pure joy. And, I haven't seen her much today. So probably after this, I'm going to go and rub her little cute belly. I did rub her belly earlier. Others, it could be a walk, right? For some, it could be cleaning up and cleaning up your space. I do find that as well, as long as we're not doing it where it is chronic, right? Where we're not using it as our only anxiety tool, because that kind of puts us in, we teeter a little bit into that OCD with that. Number 3 is being intentional with your comforts. So important, you guys. And this is so easy. Comforts that I love my pillows. I need new pillows. So if you guys have any suggestions, I try to put this on Instagram and nobody gave me pillow suggestions. Comfort in my pillows, comfort in my warm bed when I wake up, comfort in my comforters. I sleep with a sleep mask on that has speakers and I have the ocean playing. It's so comfy. I love it so much. Comfort in my sauna. The sauna is really comfortable for me, but it doesn't even have to be all that. It could be your favorite cup, right? It could be even something like ordering a healthy something from DoorDash when you're too tired to cook. It could be anything, really anything that makes you comfy, cozy. Slippers, socks, underwear, pajamas. I like to sit on this couch. I like to sit in my chair. I have a chair behind where the camera is set up, but sometimes I sit on the couch and I have a pillow behind me, right? Find those comforts and practice them. Next, we have to learn how to let go of guilt, which we talk about often. Guilt is, I've done something wrong, but that is conditioned by the thought that I need to be always doing and doing for if not for myself, for everyone else. And what I mean, or what I should say instead of myself, doing to be productive and look, like a contributor to whatever it is I'm contributing to. And then also that is doing for others. You taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is not something you should be guilty about. You should actually be very proud of it. And we have to learn to let go of that guilt, because you pouring into your own cup, protecting your peace and protecting your space is the best thing you could do for everyone else. Let's be honest. Okay. Number 5, accept that not everything is under your control. Do you want me to say that again? Accept that not everything is under your control, and that is fine. Okay. If your workload isn't under your control, what is? What is under your control? You can soften situations by focusing on the things that are under your control. I like the example that they have here is like, say your workload isn't under your control, but what is in your control because it's in your contract is a 60-minute lunch. Take the whole thing. That's in your control. That is a way to soften. Okay. If what's not in your control is you can't make it to a gym, because it takes more time to get to a gym, then what is in your control is to buy some bands or a TRX and move your body at home, right? Or don't even buy anything. You can go run bleachers. You can do jump squats on a step, right? You can run your neighborhood, right? You can do a lot of things. So figure out what is under your control. Be okay with what is not. Don't let it be the excuse and be victim, right? Well, I can't control this. And so I've got to do all the work. Since I got to do all the work, I can't eat lunch. And now I'm doing that every day and I'm not eating enough and I'm overworking and I'm burning out, right? Soft Era says, no, take that fucking lunch and you can eat for 10 minutes and go on a walk. You can go pet some horses if they're close. I don't know why that came into my head, but whatever. You can go sit outside and watch people yell at each other. I don't care what you do. Take the whole lunch. Number 6, surround yourself with people who prioritize softness and peace. Now, this one's hard because my friends and I have a lot of the same mentality. And we are doing a girls' weekend in a couple weeks, and we are doing yoga and we're doing sound bath, which is not something we would do before. And I'm really excited about it because it gives us an opportunity to take care of our bodies, take care of ourselves, very much in our half soft girl era. There will still be fun to be had on girls' weekend, but find your people, whether it's a yoga class, a running club, even find communities where you can go do things solo. I have a client right now. She's going to Santa Fe. She's an artist herself. She's a fashion designer, very brilliant fashion designer. You will see some of her pieces when I am on my European trip. And she's just going to be around people like her who love art and color. And that's a part of her soft girlness and her soft era-ness. Number 7 is practice being aware of the softness in your day-to-day. So I want to read this one. Take some time to notice the small things in your life that bring you comfort and joy. Softness lies in the most unexpected moments, like a warm cup of tea, laughing your ass off with your friends. So when life is feeling grim or whatever that is, practicing mindfulness of what brings you that calmness, what brings you that comfort, because it does already exist in your life. So again, I will link the article here. I just thought it was a brilliant article. Thank you to my friend Shannon for sending that over to me. And, looking at where you're, if you were constantly living in hard mode, we don't have to do that anymore. While we make fun of this other generation and their softness, we need to learn from them because we deserve it. We are already on the brink of burnout. You heard the statistics, and you deserve to protect your peace and protect your space and find that middle ground. It's not the pendulum swing to, bed bugs all day, never getting out. There's a gal I follow on TikTok, and she's in finance. She's a very successful woman, beautiful New York apartment, always got her red bottoms on and her Chanel purse. And her whole thing is like, I'm a girl who is single and she's kind of an introvert. She loves to come home, make herself food, take a nice shower, hang out with her cat, and she just chills. And I'm sure with her finance job, like that's really heavy and hard, but she protects even her peace at night and just says, look, I'm not going to say yes to the happy hour, or I'm not going to say yes to taking on the client dinner. I'm just going to go home and relax. And I think that that's so important. So I have to find her and see if I can get her in the notes before we post this. So ask yourself this honest, what's one place this week that you could choose ease and let that be enough? Just one place, just pick one. We're going to start there because people getting laughed at for going into their soft era might be the ones who actually figured it out overall. That's the episode. If this one landed for you, share it with a person in your life who wears their exhaustion like a trophy. We don't want to do that anymore. They might need to hear this more than they'll admit. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. 94% of you do not subscribe or follow, one or the other, not both. You can do one or the other. It's YouTube. You go to the page, the channel, and you hit subscribe. For Apple Podcasts, you open up Apple and there's the 3 dots, follow show, hit follow show. Same on Spotify. And if you like and love, I love a 5-star rating and review. I haven't had a new review since January. So if you guys could put that in, that would be wonderful. I'm also going to source the notes for where I received that information. So all of our sources will be in the show notes as well. And other than that, I'm going to leave you the same way I do every single week, reminding you that what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.